Can we just take a minute to actually look at what Aya just did and like how boldly she said this? Because she's like, hey, I know it's the mystery's solved. I got this all under wraps. But when you take just a couple of steps back, everyone is dying or dead at this point. Like literally, this isn't an exaggeration. Heads are being blown apart. The humans versus the werewolves, it's game over. It's a complete bloody massacre. But at least Aya solved the case. I don't know what she solved exactly. We do get a decent amount of information this episode, but still, the more I watch, the less I truly understand exactly where it's going. But I guess at least Aya solved the case, so I guess not everything's complete chaos. But holy hell, what an episode, and thank God we still have one more to go, because if this would have been only a 12 episode anime, you know they would have had to condense this arc a lot more. But it really does feel like they took their time with each arc to give it the proper pacing, and I think the finish next week is going to go out on a bloody, if not explosive bang. But I do have a full live reaction episode 12 of Undead Murder Farce available on my Patreon, so if you would like to see that, head on over there. And honestly, you know, I walked into this episode thinking they're probably not going to end this arc, but at the same time, depending on how fastly and kind of lickety-split they go through it, it's possible. I mean, once our girl's here, I mean, she can solve things rather fast, right? So I wasn't sure where they were going. And by the time we kind of reached what I thought was going to be the stopping point, I was like, that's a good stopping point. We're going to walk into episode 13, shit will pop off, and that's how we'll go. And instead, we have chains being whipped on, like they lined up, I don't know, like 4 or 5 people, and the chain went down on their head and exploded. There's shotguns going off. There's just people being massacred. And I'm like, did it have to be this way? I mean, we knew Moriarty's crew, Frankenstein and all of them were going to cause a ruckus. We know they've been scouting for a bit. But just the fact that it went so crazy, and at this point, it's not even about saving the village at this point. I think it's just certain people that, you know, characters like Shizuku ended up like really caring about. She wants to protect. The end of the episode has a montage of all the different pairings. Like they keep zooming in and out to like, I don't know, probably 8 different people, just to show all the fights that are probably going to pop off next week. And honestly, I'm just like, I'm flabbergasted in the best possible way. Like I've been hyping this show up since episode 1, saying how fresh and different it is. But when you really take a step back and look at each of the 3 arcs that we dealt with, including like episode 1 kind of being more of like the prologue establishing, this show has been like 3 or 4 different types of anime. And where we're currently standing, like the fact that how many episodes have we been now in this arc, and I still don't know the final steps they're taking. Yes, they answer quite a bit with the kid in terms of what happened. Like, okay, like, you know, there was kind of like this establishing foreshadowing that maybe she wasn't treated as well as they're making it out to be, but at the same time, it didn't seem like a complete lie. We get the full truth this episode, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a challenge, of course, you know, she had a disability, she wasn't able to walk by herself, but the fact that they threw her ass into the woods and just ran for the hills, garbage human beings. And the fact that it only was after she was brought back, and of course she would know that it was a werewolf that helped her. The fact that she knew she needed to be useful, otherwise the same thing, if not worse, would have happened to her. Just building in and making it just kind of feel like, oh, that makes so much sense of like why they're seemingly so guilty, but at the same time there's this like evidence of they did treat her almost like a goddess among their village, and that's only because she clearly had information that would benefit them and kind of the village in general, so she was kind of put on this pedestal. But the fact that you just abandon a kid like that, and just, it's so shady. Every time you like talk with these people, I'm thinking this Zeke Yeager looking mofo, I'm like, is he the big bad? But honestly, by the end of this episode, he's the one who had probably the most, like, I don't know, compassion, or remorse, I should say. Not compassion, but just like the fact that he's thinking back of when they burned that tower. He's seeing all the flames, all the carnage, and he's pretty much just, I think he has the guiltiest conscience of them all, because he's just looking at this of like, what did we do? Why did this happen? And should have it ever occurred like this? I have to admit though, they probably had the best action sequence out of any of the episodes, and that's when our boy Sugaru. So initially, you know, if we look at last week, there was a broom shoved down a werewolf's throat. That is savage. Our boy does the same thing, but with his fist, and yeah, he takes a nasty biting it, but all things considered, the animation when he basically, I thought he was gonna Super Mario 64 him, because when he grabs the tail, I thought he was gonna spin him like Bowser anytime you fight Bowser. Instead, he just slams him down like Hulk did to Loki in the Avengers. But the idea that he basically lures him up to this rock, he drops down, kicks the rock into his face, uses the tree to propel himself, coolest action sequence hands down. And I think knowing just how strong he is, makes a moment like that just so remarkable. And honestly, it was really well produced. And I was like, that's good enough for action. I don't need any more. And then the guns got cocked. And then you see the chains get whipped. And honestly, man, I think there's gonna be like 12 people left standing when this is all said and done. I don't know if there will be more werewolves than humans, but at the end of the day, like, yeah, we might be solving the case, but given how much bloodshed has already occurred within a couple of moments within the end of this episode, we have an entire episode next week still left for season 1. What is there to solve when the whole damn village, or both villages, are seemingly destroyed? Is there anyone who's even gonna care about the mystery anymore? I mean, Aya, of course, but man, it's there's some like sick humor here when you just think about her just being like, yeah, I solved it. Don't worry. And then I'm looking to my left, I'm looking to my right, and I'm like, who the hell's left or going to be left standing for us to say it? And we have so many fights building up, and this was a truly exhilarating, if not bloodbath-filled episode. Like, Undead Murder Farce has definitely been one of the biggest dark horses of 2023 for anime. It just kind of like, it had an interesting premise at face value, and the poster image was kind of interesting, because I mean, how many times do you have a severed head just in a birdcage? But just from minute 1 of episode 1 now to leaving episode 12, after all these weeks, I just find myself saying it's almost impossible to compare this show to other anime I've seen, and I love that because this truly was something refreshing, and the back and forth chemistry between a severed head and a half human, half Oni was adorable, flirtatious, downright like erotic sometimes. But I think the biggest thing for me was honestly the maid in him, because I mean, the fact that when he delivers her clothes, she basically stabs him in the eye, he gives the clothes, and her first response is, "Where are my underwear? I forgot it." The only thing I hope with episode 13, they probably won't do it, but the fact that he forgot her underwear, I'm just hoping there's going to be a remark about how it's chilly or something because his dumbass couldn't find the underwear or something. It's the little moments, you know, the little moments that just can stick out. But in general, the cast was great, the side cast that we continue to get introduced with each arc, and honestly, this show is unlike anything I'm watching this season or have watched this year. It's something that really stood out, and hopefully it's just going to continue to build that cult following as the seasons and years goes on, because this is a show that's definitely a must watch in my opinion for any anime fan who's looking to expand their taste outside of maybe the most mainstream of shows. Now, of course, those are my feelings. You know, if I'm coming up here, I'm going to be loving Undead Murder Farce, but I'd love to know what everyone thought, because one thing I really do like seeing is each episode, like everyone pretty much saying like, yeah, I don't even know where we're going at this point. I got my theories, maybe like both villages are working trying to screw the other over, but then you get so much information and you feel like you kind of have like everything solved, but then you look to your right or left and you're like, oh wait, everyone's dying. So hopefully more pull through than where it's currently looking, but time will tell. So thoughts yourself down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more videos to the channel, and like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon if you're interested. And hey, while you're there, you also get a video shout out. So we have Ray Quigg's Rerun, Refact972, Ricardo Pelego, Richard Diaz, and Rhinon. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.